Over the weekend, I watched The Woman in the Window. If you've watched this movie, or even this episode of The Simpsons, you've been watching Hitchcock. Let me explain. Alfred Hitchcock is one of the most influential figures in cinema. In 1954, he made a movie called Rear Window, starring Grace Kelly and James Stewart. It tells the story of a professional photographer confined to his apartment after an injury. His girlfriend often visits him, but one night when he's alone, he hears screams outside of his window. The next morning, he notices that his neighbor's wife is gone and catches him cleaning a large knife and handsaw. He grows convinced that his neighbor murdered his wife. Because our main character is injured, most of the movie unfolds from the rear window of his apartment, where he sees the other building across the street. David Lynch puts it this way.
It's a cozy film, and James Stewart's apartment and Grace and Thelma Ritter, you know, they're kind of great people coming in and out of this, you know, place. And then the characters around apartment buildings, and a mystery starts. It's, you know, really a beautiful idea. It's just beautiful.
So the premise is simple. The main character is trapped at home. He witnesses a murder from his window. This places him in immediate danger, which is heightened by the fact that his movements are limited. It's classic Hitchcock. And Rear Window's premise inspired many modern movies. Here are a few examples, but let me know in the comments below if I forgot any movies. The Woman in the Window by Amy Adams. Our main character has agoraphobia and is stuck at home. She witnesses a murder from her window looking into her neighbor's house. She signals the crime and everyone thinks she's crazy. This puts her in immediate danger. Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf. Our main character is stuck at home on house arrest, where he begins to spy on his neighbor. He grows suspicious that his neighbor might be a serial killer. This puts him in immediate danger. Other movies like Body Double and Silver borrow from Rear Window's concept of voyeurism. There's also a 1998 remake of the original movie. This happens often with Hitchcock movies. Most famously, there is a Psycho shot-for-shot remake featuring Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore. Rear Window is so important that it is being preserved at the US National Film Registry by the Library of Congress since 1997. It's deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically important. Here's how Scorsese puts it.
Again, the way Hitchcock shows it, which means where he aims the camera, what he puts in the frame, how he moves it, how he doesn't move it, the use of color, and Jimmy Stewart's character. Should he be doing what he's doing? It's none of his business. You know, it really is none of his business. What kind of a guy is this? And he's our hero. You know, we have to go through with him. And I think that's something, again, that only Stewart could have pulled off. You like him, because he's a very genial guy in the beginning of the picture. You know, but he goes off on some perverse trip.
Widespread parodies are often a sign of how culturally important a movie is. We've seen this in my Brokeback Mountain video. Rear Window was also parodied multiple times. In an episode of The Simpsons called Bart of Darkness, Bart is put in a wheelchair after he breaks his leg. From his bedroom window, he starts spying on Ned Flanders and becomes convinced that he has committed a murder. Other TV shows also parodied Rear Window. In an episode of Family Guy called Crimes and Meg's Demeanor, Brian injures his leg and spies on his neighbors. After a while, he grows convinced that the principal killed his wife. In an episode of The Flintstones called Alvin Brick Rock Presents, Fred and Barney watched through the rear window a series of violent arguments between their new neighbors. In an episode of That 70s Show called Too Old to Trick or Treat, Too Young to Die, Fez falls from a roof and is put in a wheelchair. From the bedroom window, he believes he saw Bob dispose of Midge's body. Even SNL made a sketch about Rear Window. Rear Window is viewed by many as a masterpiece. However, many movies inspired by this classic fail to achieve the same quality. For example, the movie Abdominal is about a paraplegic man spying on college girls, and he eventually witnesses one of them getting kidnapped by none other than a Sasquatch. Lifetime also attempted to pay homage to Rear Window, but it's not worth your time either. Rear Window was at the center of 2 court cases involving this guy. The first was a dispute about copyrights that went all the way to the Supreme Court in 1990. Rear Window was inspired by a short titled It Had to Be Murder by Cornel Woolrich. The author later sold movie rights to a production company with a 28-year copyright renewal agreement. Hitchcock and his production company eventually purchased those rights, and they made Rear Window. The author died before the expiration of the 28-year movie copyright renewal agreement. The literary rights of this short was then passed to his executor, Chase Bank. They sold the movie rights to a literary agent called Shelton Abend. He refused to honor the author's original agreement to renew the movie copyrights, so he sued Hitchcock's production company. He ultimately dismissed his suit and got some payment in exchange. The second lawsuit involved the movie Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf. Abend sued everyone involved with the movie, alleging that the producers of Disturbia violated the copyright of the original Woolrich story he owns, but the US District Court ruled against him. If you're interested in Hitchcock, I recommend also watching Psycho, Strangers on a Train, and Vertigo. These movies were also extremely influential. And of course, if you haven't seen Rear Window, it's definitely worth your time, although it's possible you've already watched it without even knowing. Okay, good. Hello, kumusta ba?